think about the equitable transition in terms of this and some of the challenges we heard about in panels even earlier this week, things like workforce development and supporting these communities, what are some of your thoughts on how we can make sure we're doing this properly?
I think it has to be bigger than us putting charging stations in their communities. We have to change that language. It's also, how can we share the workforce? How can we share the designing? You know, when we designed our application, our tech, we shared it with our technicians, and it's a very diverse group of folks. And while we were really focused on the charging station, they were able to point out some things that may not be charging station related, but made the app much more better, like safety. Will everyone be able to use it? Is it well lit? You know, all kinds of things that as tech folks, I think we dive into just the work. And when we really let the community that will be using this, because it just won't be us, they can give you really good feedback on how to improve your products and your services, your technology. So also the workforce development, it's a big deal because we are not going to be able to move to mass EV adoption. Not for me, of course. You can't tell me $7.5 billion is coming down the pipeline and nobody in my network is remotely related to it.
So you talked a little bit around the Climate Act of 2030. Why? Why now? What's the significance of that? Why are we focusing on that at this time?
So a lot of things line up quite nicely. Certainly the executive order is a good reason to fall in on that. The president said do something, so the federal departments certainly are keen to that. But secondly, look, I mean, the challenges are imminent right now. Today we're seeing the effects in places like Naval Station Norfolk and at Marine Corps Recruit Depot Parris Island, where the effects of rising tides impact us every day. At the Naval Academy, an event that happened about once every 40 weeks, so about once a year, now happens 40 times a year in terms of tide. I mean, impacting our ability to access. So we know that the challenges are imminent, and that the threats are real, and that we've got to take action. So what better time than now to move out on this?
Absolutely. I always say that the goals are aggressive. The technologies needed to meet those goals may not be readily available, and you add in the complexity of climate change and the complexity of those impacts we're seeing more frequently, it really puts an emphasis on we have to be taking action now to advance technologies to be ready for that time frame that we need it in.
One of my takeaways from sort of the sessions that focused on equity or on workforce development is I feel like as much as we did, now I think we need to do 10 times more. In other words, I think outlining the scope of the problem is a great start, but now you're like, oh wow, we could have just kept being this sort of nerdy conference where we talk about, refrigerants all day long, or the romance of which electric vehicle charging approach is best, but we went there, and there's no going back. I agree with Ben that there's no going back, but this is also an area where really do need a really broad coalition of stakeholders to get it right.
The communities, the buildings, the workforces are telling us how they feel about electrification. We should listen, we should adapt, and we should be proactive.